No, this is Spellbinder with a story out of the internet paper morphcity.com. This is very, very scary because I heard this was coming down the pike, and here it is. The National Ocean Council. This is by Cassandra Anderson, July 28, 2010. Now this is where Obama's sneaking this in, so get ready. He's doing another sneak attack on us. Stab us in the back and twist the blade. 30 states will be encroached upon by Obama's executive order establishing the National Ocean Council for control over America's oceans, coastlines, and the Great Lakes. Under this new council, states' coastal jurisdictions will be subject to the United Nations Law of the Sea Treaty. In this UN Agenda 21 program, with Agenda 21 means Population Reduction Program, America's oceans and coastlines will be broken into 9 regions that include the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, South Atlantic, Gulf Coast, West Coast, and Great Lakes, Alaska, and Pacific Isles, including Hawaii and the Caribbean. Because of decades of difficulty that the collectives have had trying to ratify the Law of the Sea Treaty, or LOST, Obama is sneaking it through the back door by way of this executive order establishing the council. Because LOST is a treaty, Obama's executive order is not constitutional, as the treaty ratifications require a 2/3 approval from the Senate. And Michael Shaw said that the Agenda 21 Convention on Biodiversity Treaty of 1992 failed to pass Congress, so it was executed through soft law and administratively on local levels. And Obama's executive order is similar soft law tactics to enact the LOST treaty. In fact, our constitutional form of government is being completely destroyed because buried in the CLEAR Act, H.R. 3534, there is a provision for a new council to oversee the Outer Continental Shelf. It appears that this Regional Outer Shelf Council will be part of the National Ocean Council. This means that if Congress makes the CLEAR Act into law, then the implementation of the UN Law of the Sea Treaty as part of the National Ocean Council's agenda will be ratified in a convoluted and stealth manner, in full opposition to the Constitution and its intent. The excuse for this extreme action is because of the emergency in the Gulf of Mexico. Look, problem, reaction, solution. Obama and Congress have always had the legal and military power to force BP oil to take all necessary action to stop the gusher and clean the oil spill. While there is evidence that the problem in the Gulf have been a result of collusion and planned incompetence, it begs the question, why in the world should America's oceans and resources be controlled by Obama appointees? National Ocean Council members. John Holdren, Obama's science and technology advisor, is the co-chairman of this new council. He is also the depopulation enthusiast and advocates sterilization by way of using infertility drugs in the water and food, as well as forced abortions, which he describes in his book Eco Science, written in 1976. And if you ever see him on the news and he's in his office, that book is nicely displayed behind him. He's proud of his eugenics work. Ken Salazar, Secretary of the Department of Interior, and its subagency MMS Minerals Management Service has authority over offshore drilling and responsibilities for enforcing spill prevention measures. The Department of Interior's BLM, Bureau of Land Management, is the entity that controls federal managed land extending across 30% of America and 11 western states. Last week, Congressman Lori Garment said that Ken Salazar personally prevented drilling on the land in Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado, thereby also preventing energy independence. In addition, the federal lands have been grossly mismanaged and present fire dangers. The federal government is $3.7 billion in arrears for maintenance of the federally managed lands. U.S. Department of Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, by way of the U.S. Forestry Service, And the U.S. Wildlife and Fishery Service has been competent in the decline of our country's food independence. For example, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, along with the Department of Commerce, shut the water off in California using Endangered Species Act. It was later proven that partially treated sewage was the primary culprit in killing the salmon in the Delta smelt that was previously blamed on farmers. This is phony environmentalism. The U.S. Forestry Service has also misused the Endangered Species Act to limit farmers and ranchers, and remember that the USDA co-owns the Terminator gene patent with Monsanto that makes seed sterile. So you always have to go back to them to buy your seed because you can't keep any over and plant next year. Lisa Jackson is the EPA administrator who has threatened to impose 18,000 pages of new regulations to curb global warming, which is based on lies, claiming that carbon dioxide is a danger to human health. Yes, I guess trees can't have carbon dioxide to make oxygen, so we all die. Department of Defense Secretary Robert Gates, the Department of Homeland Security Janet Napolitano. It is unclear how these two federal appointees will enhance environmental stability over oceans and coasts. Traditionally, national security threats like the war on terror have been used by the federal governments to take control of resources. For example, many years ago, when the interstate highway systems were first being built, the feds got in on the action by claiming that they were building a defense highway system. They encroached into an area that belonged to the states. And interestingly, there were no overhead structures on highways originally because of the feds' claim that large missiles would be transported on these defense highway systems. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, a leading globalist, is likely to plunge our country into international entanglements and subjugation based on her past performance. An example is her support of the UN Small Arms Treaty, which is contrary to the Constitution. You see what they're doing here. Department of Energy and Secretary Stephen Chu, the Department of Commerce Secretary Gary Locke are logical choices for this destructive council, as some of the planned funding for this program will come from permits and leases, oil drilling leases, for example. These agencies will limit America's energy independence. Click here to see the full list of 24-member council. Most of them are the czars. I got an article that I can't show you right now, but it was on Rense.com, list of Obama's czars. And it's got a whole bunch of them. Richard Holbrooke, Ed Montgomery, Jeffrey Crowley, Alan Bernstein, David J. Hayes, Ron Bloom, Dennis Ross, Lynn Rosenthal, Carol Burr, Joshua Du Bois, Cameron Davis, Van Jones. All these people are czars. There's got to be like 30 of these people. 30 czars. The only time I ever heard czars was from the communist countries like Russia. They had czars. I guess we're supposed to have czars too. The smoking gun. Here it is. Agenda 21. Sustainable development is the overreaching blueprint for depopulation and total control, and the National Oceans Council is clearly an Agenda 21 program. The National Ocean Council is headed by John Holdren, an avowed eugenicist, which is selective breeding through brutal means like forced abortion. The National Oceans Council's own report, Coastal and Marine Spiritual Plan, page 8, incorporates a section in the 1992 Rio Declaration, which is an original UN Agenda 21 document. In fact, the report says that it will be guided by a Rio Declaration in cases where there are threats of serious or irreversible damage. Lack of full scientific certainty shall not be used as a reason for the posting cost-effective measures to prevent environmental degradation. Page 8. This means that regulations will be imposed even if the science is not understood or the science is based on global warming manipulated data, real or imaginary. We go back to Henry Kissinger on that quote. We will have to do something if it comes out, even if it's real or imaginary, we'll be able to do our control. The National Oceans Council main objective is to sink American sovereignty through the United Nations Law of the Sea Treaty, lost with the intended result of domination by the UN over our coast and the Great Lakes. Lost originated in 1970s as wealth redistribution plan. Ooh, let's see, that's a Democrat thing. We'll take the wealth from the rich and give it to everyone else that don't deserve it. Third world countries. Lost sets rules for commercial activity beneath the high seas and establishes new international bureaucracies and tribunal and interpret and apply rules to sea activity, and laws can proceed with those rules even against U.S. objections. See, once we're in it. UN runs everything now, boys. Loss threatens to complicate deep sea mining. Loss sets the precedent that U.S. rights are dependent upon approval of international entities. Exactly. UN runs the game. Loss also extends to ocean-flowing rivers. Regionalism. There's one. Michael Shaw pointed out that non-elected councils are increasingly expanding their jurisdiction through air quality boards, water quality boards, sewer system, transportation districts, metropolitan planning, etc. to gain control over resources. Often large corporations and financial interests form public-private partnerships with the government within these councils. Breaking areas into regions and placing authority with non-elected councils is a communist trick used to hijack resources, thereby usurping local and state powers by rezoning the areas that do have constitutional authority. Appointed bureaucrats are untouchable because their jobs are not dependent upon serving the voting population, and they are usually inaccessible to the public and do not have a face. Those who are affected by their insider decisions when state and local governments become corrupt. The public is able to confront them eye to eye, but distant bureaucrats can avoid accountability. Regionalism is used as a psychological tactic to intimidate state legislators into creating the system for a new political and economic order. Obama's executive order that has created the 9 new regions amounts to rezoning, and his appointed bureaucrats are answerable only to him. In David Holton's testimony in '78 on regionalism, he said that the states of Indiana made this declaration: neither the states nor Congress have ever granted authority to have any branch or agency of the federal government to exercise regional control over states. Horton further stated that Congress holds all legislative power that is granted in the Constitution, as opposed to executive orders that are not legislative. Therefore, Obama's executive order for rezoning and appointing a governing body to usurp the states and local power is constitutionally invalid. The public must become aware of state sovereignty, or the 10th Amendment, and to demand that the state and local governments assert these constitutional laws and principles. Okay, here's Coastal and Marine Spatial Planning Report. And this goes on and on. I'm not going to have time to go through it, even though we got a 15-minute window now on YouTube. But if we don't do something immediately about this, we're going to lose our control of our country. It's going to be ran by faceless bureaucrats that we can't stop. It's like having the bankers running everything already worldwide, running everything in your neighborhood. Just wrong. Well, until next time, I'm going to leave a link to this on my YouTube page at the bottom of the video in the descriptions, and you can read this thing yourself, download it, get the word out, tell people these monsters are trying to take over. I mean, they're taking over without anyone's voting them in or anything. This makes me mad. I'm amazed people along the coast aren't biting through nails once they hear this. Tearing off nails, biting bullets and stuff, because it's like, oh, this is just wrong. Well, until next time, this is Spellbinder giving you this breaking news report of what Obama is getting ready to stab us in the back again. Until next time, be good at it.